a big one for me, which I don't know how many other people do it, is the visualization. So I am living and breathing it, and I'm dreaming about it, and that's why I think I finished BT last year. So I was literally out there doing that race, like visualizing it when I'm awake and then dreaming about it when I'm asleep. Club Katie Walk Run Club was developed back in 2021. We started with 12 people and now we get around 60 people each week. It's about bringing like-minded people together so they can all help each other grow as people, and we turn up for ourselves, but we also turn up for each other. And
welcome to the M26 FIT Podcast, where we explore the connection between having a strong mind and a strong body.
All right, today's special guest is Katie Dall, business owner, ultra athlete, running coach, and single mum. Welcome to the podcast, Katie.
Thanks, Magnus. It's good to be here.
How's your morning been?
Big already. I was up at about 20 past 3, my alarm went off. Coffee, hydration gel out the door. Did a speed session along the river in New Farm, and then picked up my training group from Club Katie at 5:15 and took them out for an hour in the rain. I was pretty impressed actually. I think about 8 turned up to run in the rain, and it was pretty heavy by the end. Had coffee afterwards, and I was walking home and I'd already done 4 hours.
So you've achieved the equivalent of a day's work for a lot of people. That sounds like, so that's the life of an ultra athlete.
Pretty much.
So let's first start with your childhood. I know that quite often that can shape us, who we become. And I know that you were born in a little small country town in New Zealand. So tell us a little bit about your childhood.
I was born in Homoana, which is a little beachside village in Hawke's Bay, which is a absolutely beautiful place, full of vineyards and wineries. I had a very basic upbringing. Older sister, mum, dad, working family. Would get home from school and mum and dad would be working most of the time, so I'd go to the neighbour's house, and I was very lucky to have a nurturing neighbouring family. They had 5 children, so most of my childhood memories a lot of them are at that house next door playing. We had a park next door, so I had a very carefree childhood, very basic, home before dark. That was sort of the rule back then.
Very similar to mine. What about your parents? What's their pedigree? What's their background?
So my mum works in floristry and in gardening. She's a real green thumb, very hard worker. And my dad, to this day, since I was born, works in the meatworks, which is interesting because I'm vegan now.
All right, what about sports? Were you a very sporty kid? Where did you first get into? Was it running that you got into? What were your sports that you were playing when you were a child?
I didn't actually play that much sport as a child. I didn't find running until I was in my 20s when I lived in Australia. So growing up, I just dabbled in a few different things. School sport, as I was saying, we had a pretty basic upbringing, so we didn't have a lot of access to sports like a lot of the children do here. So I played a bit of netball, a bit of tennis. When I was 12, we moved to the country, and I literally had 2 other girls my age in my grade, so there was no netball. I used to play rugby with the boys. And then going to high school, played soccer and tennis. But I didn't really find joy. I didn't really find I was a natural at any of those things. So I didn't really find sport until my early 20s in Australia.
Yeah. So when did you leave school?
I left school in year 10. Big decision, I guess. But I just didn't feel like it was my place. I on hindsight, have learnt so much more out of school than what I did at school, and credit to my mum who put her trust in me and said, well, if you don't want to stay at school, you've got to go out into the workforce. And I've had many jobs, but even as a child I was working, so I would often go and pick asparagus with my dad before school when I was 11 years old. So I've been working for a very long time, and I think that's shaped who I am a lot because of the different people I've had to adapt to, customer service. So I've done a lot.
That's amazing. That reminds me, when I was 12 years old, I used to sell the paper at the traffic lights at the local intersection, up the road from home. And so that was a long time ago.
You learned the sales skill back then. I used to sell fruit on the side of the road.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay, single mum. That's obviously got its challenges, and in particular business owner, and in particularly the training. Like, you've got up at 3:20 this morning. Just talk us through what do you love most about being a single mum, and what are some of the challenges, and got any tips and tricks that you'd be able to share?
Yep. Well, I divorced from my ex-husband 4 years ago. We'd been married for 14 years, had a beautiful child, Chloe. She is now 12 and in her first year of high school. It was a very difficult time during the pandemic because we split just before the pandemic. So January 2020 was when we split, and then the pandemic hit in March. I just moved into my own apartment. So that was probably the most challenging time, was the mum guilt and working out how I was going to manage being a single mum and working as a personal trainer and a running coach, and just to even have enough money to pay for rent back then. So it was an incredibly stressful time, but I had some amazing people around me supporting me. Lucas Metacroft, who was one of them, who introduced us. And just, I think it's the making it on your own. It's very liberating. Like, it was kind of a sink or swim, so I had to make it work, and showing Chloe that I can do things on my own. And I have been reflecting a lot on it this week, that my mum, I think, taught me a lot of that. My mum and dad split when I was 13, and she's one of the hardest workers I've ever known. And she is one of the most well-loved people in our town as well. So I think I get a lot of that passion for community from her, and just the willingness to get in and get it done and get the work done. I've still got a long way to go, but I'm loving the journey, and I think I'm loving the journey of going back to my roots and going back to me and what my values are and what my purpose is.
Now, that is absolutely fantastic. Now, I know that you went from bodybuilding into triathlon, and then obviously marathon running, and then finally the ultra running. So can you just talk us through that journey?
Yep. Yeah, it's quite a journey. When I was with my ex-husband, he was working at the local gym, and I think we'd put on a little bit of extra weight, and decided, okay, we need to do something to get this off. So back then it was go and visit the local bodybuilder and get some supplements and get on the diet, and then go to the gym. And I saw a personal trainer who did a basic program for me, and I started getting really good results. So my genetics sort of come into play, which I didn't know I had. So I do have Chinese in me, so I think a lot of it comes from that. And the muscles just started popping out quite naturally. And I've only ever done natural bodybuilding, just so you know. They called me one day and said, "This is natural bodybuilding comp on the coast. You've got to do it." So I started seeing a trainer. It's a whole different world, bodybuilding, but ended up winning my first comp, and then won a trip down to Melbourne, and then won my division, and went on to win a national title in bodybuilding through that, and became pretty obsessed with the whole process, to be honest, like training twice a day. That's when I first dabbled in running, just sprinting just to get the fat off, basically. But it was a very extreme sport, and the dieting was quite unhealthy. Ended up, developing a binge eating disorder through it, and luckily it wasn't bad enough that I was too far gone, and I was able to address that when I moved into my next sport. So I moved into triathlon because I wanted to be able to have children. I thought it was time to.
How old were you then?
I was 23 when I did bodybuilding.
Yep.
When I started, and then I did that until I was 25,
yep.
And then decided I wanted to do a beginner's triathlon course, 6-week course, which finished with a sprint distance triathlon, which seemed like such a huge task at the time. And swimming is not my strong point. Coming from New Zealand, just didn't really swim much. Didn't even have swimming lessons, I don't think. I think my sister did a bit of squad swimming, but over here they all squad swim and do surf lifesaving. Yep. So that's probably where I really got out of my comfort zone, and met some incredible people in the process, some amazing coaches that were really kind and understanding. And I then went on to do my first Olympic distance triathlon at Noosa in 2009. And that led down the path of eventually doing some world champs races and qualifying for New Zealand, which was awesome. And that was all in amongst having my daughter Chloe. So I had my daughter Chloe in 2011. And at the time I was working for Queensland Rail, and which then turned to Horizon. So had an office job, which I absolutely just hated. I look back now and think, why did I stay for so long? But it was a good paying job, maternity leave, all those benefits. And then I think she was what inspired me to sort of take it to the next level. I found that I was always in the kitchen at work giving everyone health and fitness advice. And I was like, she is going to inspire me to follow my dreams. And my ex-husband also supported me to do that as well. He was working as a PT. So, I started studying on my days off and trying to get it done. And then, after having her, I got into half marathons because it was just easier to sort of do that while I was still, trying to raise a baby and breastfeed and all the rest of that. But I did mention in a previous podcast I did do triathlons when she was quite young, and I'd literally be breastfeeding her before I went out and started the race. So I think that's I don't know. I think looking back now, doing that for her from such an early age, that shapes who they are as well. And she really inspires me now with her dancing, and she's becoming quite a talented little girl. But then that sort of led into the triathlon after representing New Zealand in Chicago and London.
Yep.
So London was 2013, Chicago 2015, which was incredible. Really great experience, and just having to train so hard was amazing. We had great support at the time from my ex-mother and father-in-law, so they were always there. But Chloe saw a lot of it, coming to all of the races, the qualifying races, and we got to see a lot of Australia through the qualifying process, which was cool. Went to New Zealand for some races, and then we opened our own studio in Brisbane City in 2017, and that's when I stepped back from doing triathlon because it was just so time consuming. I found that running was also, I was much stronger in the running leg, and kept seeing that in races and thought, I'm a bit tired of having to maintain a bike, and I'm a bit tired of travelling with a bike, and swimming, I don't know, I can take it or leave it.
Yep.
So did my first road marathon, Gold Coast Marathon 2017 or 18. And then the same year did my first trail ultra, which was a 50k race in the Gold Coast hinterland called Coastal High 50. And I remember the post I put up on Instagram, it said, I think I found my sport. So that was my true love. I was hooked straight away. And that's why I've gone on to do more of those.
How would you find the difference? Obviously a road marathon, and the Gold Coast I think is one of the flattest marathons on the circuit. And then you've gone up into the hills, into the trails, you've got elevation, undulating ground. Just talk us through what's the main differences between those two events?
Completely different sports, really. Any road runners, I actually host a Sunday social once a month with Club Katie to get people out into the trails of Mount Cootha. And every time you get road runners that come out and they say how humbling it is because it really kills their lungs and their legs. It's you're just using different muscles. I think for me, what I loved about it straight away was it's going back to being primal. So it's what we used to do in the hunter-gatherer days. We'd be out in nature running together. So one of the main differences is in an ultra, you're not redlining the whole time. So in a road marathon, you're pushing so hard, you're not talking to anyone. Yes. If you are, you're not going hard enough. Well, it depends on what goal you have. But for me, I'm pushing pretty hard, so I'm not talking to anyone. And I would say also there's a lot of ego in road running. You go out to the trails and everyone's just there to have a good time, have a beer at the finish line. It's very relaxed, but there's still some really great athletes and high performers. And so when you're out there, you're actually talking to people, you're meeting people. So that same race, Coastal High 50, at the 25K mark or just before that, we're coming into another checkpoint, and I had quite bad ITB issues coming into it, so knee pain because I rolled my ankle 4 weeks out, and that caused all sorts of issues, and my knee was killing. So anything downhill was an absolute nightmare. I was hobbling sideways, and I came across this guy, and he's like, I think I follow you on Instagram. I'm Jimmy. So this is Jimmy Gold. At the time, he was working at Newster Brew & Co. as the manager, and now he's the venue manager at Fallon's. And his story is pretty cool too. He'd come from beer drinking and late nights to ultra running, and I don't even think he drinks anymore. So anyway, we got chatting. He's like, we follow each other. And he said, my knees stuffed, I've got this massive blister on the bottom of my foot, but I kind of feel bad if I pull out because my mum is here doing this, and I kind of forced her to do it. And so we were chatting away, got to the next checkpoint, and the volunteers at that station were not letting us give up easily. And we didn't see each other after that, but we both finished, and we hugged it out at the end. And that was really cool. Just the camaraderie in trail running is really cool. From the volunteers to the people within the race. And then, it's hard. It's really hard. And not one race is the same. And often things don't go to plan. So in that race, I've done it 3 times now, I think, or 4 times. Pretty much every race something different's happened. So first year it was the ITB, second year it was gut issues, like really bad, so I couldn't properly run. And then I think the third one, there was a whole lot of rain and I slipped on some clay and smashed my tailbone. Like there's so much, the mental side of it I think is a big one, like to push through.
Yep.
And then kind of like evaluating afterwards, like, okay, how can I do things better? And then that motivates you to go back to the drawing board, work out what you can do better the next time. So yeah, I just think it's the sense of adventure, it's the people, being out in nature, and honestly, the most beautiful locations. So I did my first 100-mile race last year in Brisbane, called the Brisbane Trail Ultra, and that was just a epic adventure of things that didn't go right as well, but that's my most memorable one, the one that I'm probably the most proud of, because I just had that grit to get through. Nothing was going to let me stop, and it took me 34 hours or over 34 hours, but I got it done. Yeah.
What about Club KT? When was that born? And I know that you built a most amazing community, and you have a huge following. I know you're really passionate about it. And also, so just share a little bit of that story. And also, I think if you're able to, there's been a few people in that community, they've gone through a few hard times. And so, yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, so Club Katie Walk Run Club was developed back in 2021. So it was during the pandemic when we were in and out of lockdowns, and I just kept seeing this need for it, and it was a bit of a passion project as well. It was something that I wanted to do, and I had visualized it, and I knew that there was something in it. So it was a big decision to make, because it's at a peak time for me. So normally I would be making money off personal training clients or group sessions, and I chose to give that time to my community. So I started it, September 2021. We started with 12 people, and now we get around 60 people each week. It's free for the community. I wanted a way to be able to remove all the barriers to entry. So we do have people that can't afford to pay for personal training or for memberships. So just want to make it as easy as possible, and also people that are intimidated by running. So that's why it's called Walk Run Club, because they can come and walk their dogs, or if they're injured, they can come and walk still. And that's been one of the biggest things for me, is like removing the intimidation factor for people, and just showing that it goes back to community. We had a couple of men in our community that took their lives during the pandemic, and that's only scraping the surface. Like, there's a lot of people that come to my run club that I know have been through so much and are still, and they don't always tell me, but I'll find out through someone else that they've opened up, and I think that's really special. So I've said it before, I just love being the glue that brings other people together. It's not just about me taking on everyone else's problems, because that's a lot for someone. It's about bringing like-minded people together so they can all help each other grow as people. And we turn up for ourselves, but we also turn up for each other. And people continually turn up each week, the right people. As they say, your vibe attracts your tribe. I think that's very true.
100%.
Yeah, set the culture. And so people turn up on their own now. A week after coming with their friend, they're happy to turn up on their own, because we've set that culture where everyone can feel like they belong.
Very inclusive, and I think it's absolutely awesome what you're doing. Now, the other thing that you've released not too long ago is the Run With app.
Yep.
Tell us about that.
Yep, so that was a vision, from probably 3 years ago, me and Jimmy met, and since then Lucas has come on board as well as our third business partner, and it's another, it's built on passion. Jimmy, when he was first looking for a run club, when he was working, he works in construction, he's just getting into running, and he was looking for a run club, and he couldn't find anything on Google, and then we met at a charity event called More Than a Run. We did I think he was doing the 60K, and I was volunteering at the event, helping organise it all through Lululemon. And it was also, a Movember men's mental health event. So obviously, it's really cool. Everyone gets around it early hours of the morning, and we get either 60, 30 or 10Ks done. And we started chatting then, and he started attending my group sessions and my run clubs, and we just got chatting. And I had the vision, because I have a run coach online who lives in Melbourne, but he keeps me accountable. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to have an app that has the programs, that has the intervals for you to do, it also has the ability to bring people together. So it's actually developed into more of a community-based app and a way to help other run clubs grow and develop. Because when you think about it, there's not really anything that a communication tool, like it's like an Instagram for runners, I guess. So one big one for me is I would love people to be able to connect with a run club or to connect with other runners anywhere in the world that they go. So imagine that you're on business in London and you don't want to run on the treadmill in the dingy gym, in the basement. You can actually go and connect with a run club, potentially meet other people. So when you come back next time and you're training for a marathon or a half marathon, you can go for a run together. Like, it's connecting people and it's making people feel less lonely. And then on the other side of it is I'm very passionate about female running safety in light of what's just happened recently as well. Sadly, a woman in Ballarat was murdered on her morning run, and that's really shaken the female running community. It's really sad, like to the point now where we all feel afraid running. Some women feel afraid running even in daylight. So that's the next kind of big thing. I think I'd love to be able to do some kind of campaign around that where women can connect using our Find a Running Buddy feature and encourage women and empower them to run when they want to run. It is sad that we have to think about these things, but it's a reality. You can be at the wrong place at the wrong time. So we're working through that, and we've launched it, and we're about to roll it out to a lot of different run clubs, and we're really, again, the vision is there. So we're just working through it. It's a lot of work at the moment because I'm a one-man band with Club Katie, and that's growing. So we're just working through it, but we have a great team and we're all passionate about running.
Fantastic. I love that vision, and I think you're doing it, and it's going to be global, and I wish you every success.
Thank you.
Now, ultra running. Now, when I think of ultra running, I think of David Goggins. We've all heard about him. What are your thoughts about him, and who do you think the best ultra runner in the world is at the moment?
Well, firstly, David Goggins, being an ex-Navy SEAL, I did listen to his audio book, Stay Hard. Is that what it's called? Yeah. Is that what it's called? No, that's what he says. It's Can't Hurt Me. Sorry, Can't Hurt Me. Yeah. I just think of that Stay Hard quote that he always says. I think he has been super inspiring for a lot of the young people, but there's also another side of it where it's created this whole movement of, stay hard, push through injuries, and also it's like the people comparing themselves. So there's all these people now getting after it, and it's great that people aren't going out night clubbing to meet people now or doing drugs and alcohol. They're actually going to bed early and getting up, but it's a whole ice bath recovery, like it's this whole trend, and I think it's gone a little bit too far. I think I did listen to his book, and I did like it at the end how he did say don't do what I did, but maybe people aren't listening back to the end of the book because there's a lot of people injuring themselves really badly, and I see it all the time, and it's really sad because it's almost like you have to go through it to learn, though. Like, literally. And it's the younger generation that are more prone to it, because I've learned the hard way. I've been in a moon boot before, and then you never want to go back to that again. And I have a lot of clients online and in person that go through injuries, and you see their mental health deteriorate, and it's awful. And a lot of the time they'll just isolate themselves, and I do my best to stop that from happening. I say, come and have coffee, and I'll reach out to them, and I'll catch up with them, and I always try an early intervention as well. Like, let's go and see a physio. We've got a lot of great physios in our area, chiropractors. Try and do all the right things, but try and prevent it in the first place. And it is just education, but also learning yourself as well. David Goggins, it's good and bad. And then for me, the ultra runner that inspires me the most, which she's in the media right now a lot, is Jasmine Paris. So so she just she just made history over the weekend, which was super cool. Going back first to 2019, she had a 14-month-old daughter, and she went and won the Spine race, which is one of the most brutal races in Great Britain. It's 431 Ks. Let me just get my notes. She did it in a time of 83 hours and 12 minutes, and she won it overall and broke the course record by 12 hours. That's male and female. Like, how inspiring is that?
That is incredible. 80 hours of running.
83 hours and 12 minutes. And I've been listening to a few podcasts. The hallucinations she was talking about are hilarious. And that's what I went through last year when I did the Brisbane Trail Ultra, because I was out there for 34 hours. And it was the sleep deprivation is probably the hardest part. She was actually still breastfeeding. So she was expressing at checkpoints. So she had enough milk for her daughter, but because she would have got mastitis if she didn't express. So I think that's so cool that she is a mum and she's gone out and smashed the course record. And she was saying the guy that was on her tail, she said he was coming into the checkpoint as she was leaving, and she knew that she was like breaking him, like that was killing him. So I thought that was cool. And then she made history on the weekend because she was the first woman in history to finish the Barclays Marathon, which is, again, another brutal race in America. It's 100 miles, so it's 5 loops. It works out to 32 Ks per loop, but the elevation is double the elevation of Mount Everest, and you're literally scrambling through brambles and she was saying she was getting cuts on cuts, and she only made the 60-hour cutoff, by 90 seconds. So she had to sprint the last bit. So if you look up some footage, it's pretty inspiring. And there's some really funny interviews too. She was like, well, I thought if I don't do it, I'm going to have to do it again. I don't want to come back and do it again. So I think, she's going to inspire a lot of women out there.
Yeah, that's an incredible story. So what exactly, just explain for us, what exactly is an ultra race? Like, what's it need to be for it to be considered an ultra race?
Anything over a marathon, so anything over 42.2 kilometres, whether it's road or trail, is considered an ultra marathon.
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
And distances, so they don't necessarily have to be that 100-mile. They can be
anything
50.
like 50K, 60. Yep. There's all sorts. So Brisbane Trail Ultra, and I'm an ambassador for that event. It actually finishes at Kangaroo Point, so you have to come and have a look.
Absolutely. I'll come and cheer you on.
Yeah, well, we're actually volunteering at the finish line, so there'll be a whole lot of us volunteering.
When's that on?
The 28th to the 30th of June. So there's all different distances, everything from 10Ks all the way up to 100 mile, which is what I did last year.
Perfect.
But ultras are becoming very popular. I think it's because it's a challenge for the mind and the body.
Yep.
It's the journey and the lead up. So it's committing yourself to a goal, and the training is hectic.
All right, let's talk about that. So as you know, I do a couple of things. I've done a triathlon before, but walk me through. So could somebody with my fitness ability, or can anybody become an ultra runner? Are there any key attributes? And from where I am now, what would it take and how long would it take to get me ready to complete one of those races?
There are people now that are going straight from doing a marathon or not even doing a marathon to doing an ultra, which I don't really recommend because I do see a lot of injuries. I think it takes a good few years for your body to adapt. And
so it's progression.
Progression, yeah, because your tendons, your ligaments, muscles. So obviously strength work is really important. So you're already doing that, which is great. But it would just be about building up your mileage, like your running mileage, gradually each week. I always like to set in B races as well. So say if you set the goal to do Brisbane Trail Ultra, maybe we'd go like the 80K. So I don't know if they do an 80K, like the 100. Say if you wanted to go big, you could do the 110K next June. So that's you've got over a year to train for it.
Yep.
But I'd want you to do some other races in the lead up to prove that your body's going to be ready. So you'd start with a half marathon, maybe a road half marathon. And then you do like a 50K, might throw on a backyard ultra.
Yep.
So for anyone that doesn't know what a backyard ultra is, that's my next race actually, Dead Cow Gully, in May. It's 6.7 kilometre loops on the hour, every hour, last one standing. So again, a test of your endurance, but not so much speed, so it's a bit different. But it's just getting your body to adapt. And then, you're just, it's about having the right person overseeing, I think. That's the biggest one. And having the experts. It's like anything in life, and that's what I've realised in the last 4 years is you can't be good at everything. So focus on what you're really good at, and then let the other people take care of the rest. Yeah. Don't feel like you have to do everything, because I think like we just need to stay in our lane sometimes.
Yep.
And so I think anything is possible. A lot of it is mental, and it's committing. So if you are doing it for the wrong reasons because your mate's doing it and he's giving you a hard time, and you feel like, oh God, I really need to step up and do he did the 80K, I'm going to do the 100K. Like, I don't think that's the right reason. I think it has to be deep within inside you.
Yep.
It has to be your why. Like, why am I doing this? because a lot of people do it for the wrong reasons, and then it might not be such a great experience, or they might get injured, and then it impacts on the rest of their life. And mental health, obviously, it's a huge thing, and it spirals pretty quickly. So surrounding yourself with the right people, and enjoying it as well. Enjoy the process. So it's the journey that's such a big part of it. And I'm lucky to be surrounded by some incredible people. I met my partner through ultra running at Dead Cow Gully 2 years ago, and we get to go and train for hours on the trails together, and then we get our other mates along, and we're all like-minded. And some of them don't really like running in big groups either, so they just want to be around people. And I think I've actually grown a lot as a person from being around those people, because they really inspire me, and in business and in life as well. They're just good people. So I think I look forward to getting to go and running with them, because I'm like, oh, what am I going to learn today? Or we also have a great laugh as well.
Yeah, that's great advice, and I really resonate with what you said, that it's being authentic, and it's being that you're actually doing it, deep inside. That's obviously part of who you are.
Yep.
And if it's not, and you're not doing it for those right reasons, then it's really not going to play out that well for you, and you should just be sticking to focusing on, like you said, what you're good at, what you're focused on,
Yep.
What you're passionate about.
Yep, that's it, because life's hard if you're not doing what you're really passionate about.
Yeah. Okay. Now, can you just take me through, so leading up to a race, if I use the example, so for a triathlon, for example, the day before you get your bike set up, and then early in the morning before the race, you go and you lay your little towel out, and you get all your nutrition organised, you get your drink bottles ready, and then obviously you head off to the start line. So with an ultra race, how does that work?
Well, I guess I'll use the Brisbane Trail Ultra, my first 100 mile last June, as an example. So in the week leading up, you're tapering, which is pretty standard for, like
athletes.
A triathlon as well. Yep, athletes. So, sleep is vital. So trying to get more sleep than what I normally would. I'm big on power naps, but trying to actually go to bed early as well. And that's sort of more like the first half of the week, because the second half of the week, the nerves start kicking in, and you don't tend to sleep as well. But a big one for me, which I don't know how many other people do it, but is the visualization. So I am living and breathing it, and I'm dreaming about it. And that's why I think I finished BT last year. I was literally out there, doing that race, visualizing it when I'm awake, and then dreaming about it when I'm asleep. So obviously in the lead up, I always get a massage on race week. And then that was my first experience last year, having to have 5 different checkpoint bags packed. And yeah, I definitely learnt the hard way from that. So I decided that I was going to work all week as well. In hindsight, I should have had the week off work. So being a business owner and a mum, there's so many stresses. The same thing happened this year, to be honest, with Tarawera, which I DNF'd at 120 Ks because I was so stressed leading into it. And then we flew, so you're adding flying to it, and then being in a different location, different bed, different time zone, 1 a.m. Australian start. So that was another story. And I probably should have learnt more from the Brisbane Trail Ultra. So Brisbane Trail Ultra actually starts at midnight on the Friday night. So I always say to people, I saw 2 sunrises. How lucky am I? So because of that, I actually hosted Club Katie Walk Run Club on the Friday morning, and I was starting at midnight that night to do 160 Ks. My first miler. So I'm like, what was I thinking?
Commitment to the community.
I know. I just can't stay away. So did that, and everyone's like, go to sleep, you need to go home. And I probably should have had more organised the day before. And Toby, my partner, he's always very big on that. And I just see him nodding his head at me all the time, like, what are you doing? You need to get rest. And he's done a lot of ultras. So he's done Coast to Cossie twice, which is a 240K ultra. So that's why we kind of normalise these smaller races now, because I'm around all these people that do all these incredible things. And anyway, so I was packing all my bags, and then I didn't get enough sleep. I missed time to my dinner. But these are all things that you should do. So make sure that you simulate what you'd normally do the night before a race. So in training, you should be, don't do anything new on race day, they say. So I kind of mistimed things, because a midnight start is unusual. You don't go out training at midnight. And I probably would in the future do more training of that, but to train my body.
Simulate.
Because you're in rest and digest phase. And what I did, which was a mistake, is my sports dietitian, Lauren, she told me, okay, I want you to have they call it a successful bowel movement before you start the race, so you're not full, because you carb load.
That's good. So
that's the other thing, we carb load. And so you got so much food on board, you feel a little bit bloated, but you need these glycogen stores topped up before you start, because you're doing such a huge race. And so she's like, okay, have a coffee or have a Red Bull. And she knew I'd had Red Bull in training, but it was different when I had it, when I wasn't moving, and unfortunately it didn't work, and it just destroyed my stomach. Like, I just felt nauseous the whole event, and it might have been more than that because I did feel sick at Tarawera as well. It's just such a hard thing to get right. And so get started, and midnight start. You're trying to relax. You're trying to find your groove. It was in the winter, so it was quite cold as well. So got to the first checkpoint, and so I was really lucky. So in an ultra of anything over 100 Ks, your 100 Ks and over, you'll have a crew, and your crew is so important because they're the people that keep you going. They're the ones that make sure you have all the right food. When you get to that checkpoint, they have everything laid out. It's actually a pretty big job because they've got to make sure they get to the right checkpoint. And when you're out in the middle of nowhere, sometimes the reception's dropping out. So we came into the first checkpoint, and I had a whole lot of different Club Katie crew that volunteered at each checkpoint, and it was absolutely amazing. Like, people that gave up their time to get around it.
What are the distances between the checkpoints?
Anything from 20 to 40 Ks, roughly 20 Ks.
So you run a half marathon before you see any first crew member.
Well, Tarawera, it was 65 Ks before I saw my crew. So I just made friends with a whole lot of other people I was running with. And the volunteers are also wonderful as well. There were some aid stations where there were volunteers, but they were like, they don't allow spectators at every checkpoint for obvious reasons, like because you're out in these beautiful national parks and they don't want cars driving everywhere, and also it's a safety factor as well if there's a lot of traffic on the road. You get to your checkpoint. So the first one at Brisbane Trail Ultra was 42 Ks, early hours of the morning, so the sun was starting to come up. It was so cold. It was up at Mount Nebo State School. You refill all your food, and they give you a bit of a pep talk. I'm actually making a documentary on it because I got them all to take footage of me, so I'm actually going to put it all together. I think it'd be a really cool story to show.
Epic.
Yeah. And then on the way, so what happened was myself and Toby were both doing it. The plan was never to stay together, but we ended up together for the whole thing until he withdrew at 120 Ks. So it just wasn't his day. He'd done quite a lot in the lead up as well. He'd had another race beforehand. But so that was something I didn't expect. And I don't know. I think we both agreed afterwards we'd never do that again. And it's interesting what you say about how different people react and behave in races. So our different tactics. I try and use gratitude. So I try and be really engaging with people and smile, and even if I'm hurting, I still try and smile and have a conversation. So every time I came into a checkpoint, my crew would be like, "Katie, how are you feeling? Like, what do you need?" And I'm like, "Good, how are you?" They were like, "Why are you asking how we are? Like, how are you?" And I was a bit delirious too, but apparently I was still asking people how they were, and I was making sure that my paces were eating, and I was still worried about others because I think that's just who I am, and it's the mum in me as well. But so we have paces that jump in. So So
with the different, so you get to first checkpoint, 20 Ks, and you said that you take on board some more nutrition, some more hydration. Then when did you find in that particular race, do you hit a little bit of a wall? Is there a particular spot where you start to hurt? Obviously you're very, very fit. You've designed yourself to behave in those circumstances quite well, but obviously still your body gets to a particular point. What point is that where you first start to encounter your suffering?
It can range for everyone, but at Brisbane Trail Ultra, which was the first one last year, I think around, we came into the 60K checkpoint. I think we were okay then.
Yep.
And then after that, I think we started really feeling it. So there was a huge section in the Diagula the national park, where there's these huge, wide, winding fire trails, and if you're not going up, you're going down. So it was relentless. And just an insight, Brisbane Trail Ultra, the elevation, it makes it one of the hardest milers you'll do. So it's 8,000 metres of climbing. So that's equivalent to Mount Everest.
Yep.
So most people know that, and it's brutal. It's brutal. There's no just like flat running, like if you're either going up or down. So it actually was to the point where it was more painful running downhill because your knees are just, your hip flexors are loaded up, your knees, and you just get tired of it, and you start getting a bit grumpy. So that's where your mindset comes in, where you do have to bring in those tactics, and you can you go through each one and you see what works. And I always think about the senses, like, you know, what can I see, what can I hear, what can I taste, what can I smell, and try and be in the moment, because your mind can start sort of, sometimes I feel like I'm always just looking for the end, and I'm like, no, you are here now and you've got so far to go. You need to enjoy this moment. And yeah, I think around that, after the 60k mark, so before you come into the next checkpoint where you pick up your paces, so in a miler you can have paces jump in at certain points. It's for safety as well, because you do start getting delirious and you can start hallucinating, and it's pretty scary. Like, you can make bad decisions when you're in that state and you're in the dark. So there's a huge climb. It's probably the biggest climb of the on the course, just before the 85k checkpoint. And yeah, that was breaking a lot of people. There were people at the top being put into vehicles and shipped away for different reasons. And yeah, in those events we use poles as well, so the poles help a lot. But yeah, you come into that checkpoint and they have hot noodles for you, so you sit there and have some noodles, and we've got it all on tape. And Toby just kind of went mute. He was just sitting there staring at the ground, and he was pretty tired. And our poor pacers, so we had 2 pacers that we picked up, and yeah, there wasn't much talking happening. They were trying to keep the spirits high, and they were both amazing. They did the job perfectly. I'd stopped drinking and eating. I just couldn't. So they were actually forcing me to drink. And yeah, I probably wouldn't have made it if it wasn't for them. Even just sips of a can of Coke. Coke is what we call liquid gold in an ultra. There's something about it that just gets you going. Bit of caffeine, bit of sugar.
That's good to know.
Yeah, and there's just these sections, like it felt like I'd gone to war with myself. And I do love the quote. What is it? Sometimes you must go to war with yourself to fix yourself. That's one of David Goggins' quotes. That's why we do it. We go into this dark, dark hole, and you just learn all these things about yourself that you didn't know. And my daughter always comes up in my head as well. So you start thinking about her. You get a bit emotional.
So this is around about the 85k mark. Is that when you're hallucinating a little bit?
Yeah, probably more like getting closer to 100k's and in the dark, because we're in the second night by then. Yeah. And when you've got a headlamp on and you're tired, I started sleep deprived, which was so stupid. I didn't get any sleep. I was supposed to sleep on the Friday, and I was so nervous and panicked by all my getting my bags, filled up for each aid station, and half of the stuff you don't even use. You just pack so much just in case. You're staring at a circle on the ground, and that circle starts becoming psychedelic. And my eyes were literally trying to close. I was actually literally asleep on my feet. One of my pacers said to me, Brad, he said, when I was coming into the 140k checkpoint, so this is the second sunrise at Mount Cootha, we're running there, just done Kokoda at Mount Cootha, and he said I could tell when you were asleep because your feet would start getting heavier, and then I'd come to again. And all I could think about was that next aid station. I knew my crew had a bed there waiting for me. They'd made a little bed on the ground. So I came into that checkpoint, put a fresh change of clothes on, and I put my head down and they put the blanket over the top of me, and I was asleep for 15 minutes because I taught myself how to power nap. I can power nap in a race. They wake me up at 15 minutes, put my shoes back on. I ate some hot noodles. I'm drinking ginger beer. There's a video of me and I sound like I'm drunk. And I'm still laughing. But yeah, the one thing my crew said was that they knew they just knew that I was just so determined. Even though they said to me afterwards, Will Road, you weren't going to finish. Like, your legs were swelling. So, what's the condition called? I've had a mind blank now. Rhabdomyosis. Have you heard of that?
No.
So it's where your muscles start breaking down, and the chemicals can go into your blood, and in extreme levels it can kill you. A lot of people end up in hospital for a couple of days. So it's like an extreme form of lactic acid type, is it? Yeah, just the body starts breaking down because it's under so much stress. So my legs had swollen, so I looked like a power lifter by the end. And so they were worried, but they were like, but you were so determined that there was no way you weren't finishing that. So the checkpoint before was when Toby pulled out. We actually arrived there at midnight, and my daughter was there at midnight. She popped out of nowhere. Her dad had brought her out. They thought I was going to be at Mount Cootha, which was the next checkpoint, at 8 p.m. the night before. We were way later than what we were supposed to be because of what happened, and the exhaustion had set in. And so that was really cool seeing her, and she was going and getting me food from the aid station and trying to feed me cold potatoes, and it was absolutely freezing. It was below 0 degrees.
I just got goosebumps. How amazing is that, having your daughter there at that part? Are you cognizant of it at that point? Or were you still, did you actually realise that she was there?
I was pretty out of it, but she came, like she was standing there as I was running in, and I was so surprised. And well, I think I had thought about it earlier. I'm like, oh God, I wonder where Chloe is. Like, has she come out to see me? Like, I was feeling guilty that I hadn't been where I was supposed to be. But we have trackers on us the whole time, so they can actually track us on a map. So they realised where I was, and they came out, and they were standing there in below 0 temps, freezing. And that's, I think Toby made the mistake of having a nap because he saw me sleeping, but that wasn't good for him. So that's where we, there's a lot of learnings in those moments where what works for one person is completely different for the next. But yeah, a lot of I think for me it's the visualization beforehand, like that finish line. There's no way I'm not getting there, like getting there. My race in Tarawera was completely different this year. I was like, I felt pretty good. In saying that, I felt my legs felt heavy from the start, but I've trained my mind a lot since Brisbane Trail Ultra. I think Brisbane Trail Ultra gave me next level. So that's been something I've always wanted to work on. I found when I was doing triathlon, when I hurt, I would give up too easily. But now I'm like learning to embrace that hurt and use it for something good. And so I'm really proud of how far I've progressed with that side of things. So I think, the best part of advice for me is to, know that experience helps. Each time you go to that dark place, you learn more about yourself and you learn how to hurt more. And we love going into that pain cave that we talk about, or pain lane, to embrace that hurt and embrace the suck and know that you've paid to do it. You're there for a reason. You know it's not going to be easy. You don't want it to be easy. So it's just the adventure of it, and I don't know. It's hard to explain, I guess. Yeah.
So was that 35 hours?
Brisbane Trail Ultra was 34:40. So I arrived at Kangaroo Point around 10 a.m. on the Sunday after starting at midnight on the Friday, or might even be closer to lunchtime. And then I was running through Paddington when everyone was having their brunch on Sunday morning, looking dishevelled. But it was so surreal because I had all these people running with me. They all came out of nowhere, and I'm running along, and I'm so out of it, and the sun's like coming out and it's so bright. And then there's people like driving along tooting, and then there's someone else in a cafe across the road, go Katie, and people just popping out randomly, which was so cool. And then I got to Kangaroo Point Cliffs, and the last part is the stairs. So you had to climb those stairs. And I just saw all these Club Katie hats, the pink and red hats, and there was like 20 of them all there for me. And they were all like screaming. So I'm like, well, I can't not run the stairs. So I actually ran the stairs at the end and came through the finish line, and that was just like so incredible for me, like that they were all there to support me. And I'm really excited to give back this year and have us all there at the finish line for other people as well, because I think Club Katie's going to bring the vibes.
Yeah, what a way to finish. Making a finish, is that sadistic, or is that a clever, from a course design perspective, making you run up those stairs?
Yeah, I think Shona, who is the course director, she loves to make things nasty, and I think it's a great it's something unique about an event. There's not many events where you finish on road.
I agree.
So it's a draw card, I think, for a lot of people. So this year it's pretty big for Australia and for Brisbane. Solomon are sponsoring the event, and the Golden Trail Series has been brought to Australia, and it's actually the final of the series is at Brisbane Trail Ultra this year, so the 20k event. So it's the fast trail runners. It's the final, and then the winner, male and female winner, gets to go to the grand final in Europe. So all expenses paid for. So it's going to that part of it's going to be very exciting, and then also the other side of it is seeing people doing their first 100-mile race. I've got a client, Geordie, doing his first 100-mile, and I think Kelly, who paced me last year, she's stepping up. So. It's gonna be a big weekend supporting, but it's what I love doing. So
I look forward to it. Now, recovery. So you finished that race. Tell us about and talk us through the recovery. What do you do, and how long does it take for you to get back and feeling a little bit normal again after that brutality?
Yeah, it's pretty tough afterwards. But I do credit my plant-based or vegan lifestyle to my recovery. There are things that I use that really do promote my recovery as well. So I actually just got onto a product called Currans from New Zealand, a good New Zealand product. So I met the crew at Tarawera, and it's blackcurrant extract. But it's amazing. So I used it straight after the race in New Zealand. Didn't have any DOMS, like delayed onset. Do you know what DOMS is?
Yep.
Yeah. didn't have any DOMs, and normally you're like hobbling around for 1 or 2 days.
Actually, just explain that to our listeners. DOMs.
Delayed onset muscle soreness. So basically it's like when you do a heavy legs session, or any kind of muscle, like high intensity session, or lifting heavier weights than what you're used to.
Yep.
You get all these micro tears, and then, you know, you don't feel it initially. Maybe you have jelly legs in both instances. But then the next day, and then it's normally the second day's the worst, right? You just like, you go to get up off the toilet and or you can't sit down, like it's like so sore. So same thing with after an ultra marathon, like you're hobbling along. And yeah, even though I DNF'd at Tarawera, and I still did 120 Ks, and I was still out there for 18 hours, and there was still a lot of hills that I had to climb. And for me, I was just amazed at that recovery. And now the other side of it is I'm using it for my training, because it's supposed to, I think the black currants, like it's supposed to help open up your blood vessels, so it promotes more oxygenated blood to the muscles. So feeling pretty good so far. But yeah, at the finish line of Brisbane Trail Ultra last year, I actually was handed a beer. So a lot of people love beer at the finish line, and I was like, oh yeah, that's like beer actually tastes really good, because it's like the carbs, the fizz, I don't know. But I literally was in the car with it asleep, and Toby leans over and takes it out of my hand. He literally had to like lift me into bed. I think I slept for 4 hours and then woke up and went food, burgers, chips. That's my go-to.
Yep.
And then, yeah, for the next few days, it's just like I won't run for at least a week. And my coach, Maddie Davey, he's really big on recovery. So even from Tarawera, I've only just got into, that was like over 4 weeks ago, I've only just done my first full week of training again, leading into Sydney Marathon as the A race this year. But yeah, just a lot of 30-minute runs or walks, just trying to promote like recovery. A lot of people end up with injuries straight after as well, like they'll have a knee niggle or something, and a lot of people just think they've got to get back into it, and that's when those injuries will surface. Yep. And they can be pretty bad injuries as well that stop you from being able to train. Yeah.
What about ice bath, massage, those things? You do those as well?
Yeah, I'm pretty hopeless at that actually. Like I'm straight back to work. Like that's the thing. Like I am working towards a bit of a better lifestyle, but at the moment I'm in the grind phase, so I'm straight back to work. When we were in New Zealand, we travelled to my hometown. I guess just going for walks for me. Like I think ice baths and everything, like they are great if you have the luxury and the time to do it. But for me, I'd probably go and get a massage over going and doing an ice bath. Yep. And I've got my trusty foam roller and trigger ball at home and magnesium spray. Yeah.
That's great to know. Great insights. Now we're going to get into the quick fire questions. You ready?
Yep.
All-time favourite movie?
Cody Ugly.
The most important person you've ever met?
Oh, important person.
Make it famous.
Famous. It's actually Osher Gunsberg. You know Andrew G?
No.
I actually put him through a PT session back in the day. Yeah, he's off The Bachelor and Australian Idol.
Okay,
Yeah.
If you had a billboard, what would it say?
In the end, only kindness matters.
What's made you laugh so hard that your stomach hurt?
2 years ago when we were camping up at Binnaburra with a close group of friends playing a cooked Aussies game, and we were having a few drinks and sitting around the campfire, and yeah, some of the challenges, we were just in fits of laughter.
The greatest advice you've ever received?
Ooh, find your why.
Other than running, what do you get excited about?
Seeing my daughter Chloe up on stage in her element dancing. Yeah, and seeing other people achieve their goals as well.
And if you could have dinner with anybody in the world, who would that be?
Either Jasmine Paris, the ultra runner, or Rich Roll.
What do you most hope to accomplish in this lifetime?
Being a great mum and being the glue that brings people together, like to create beautiful communities and happiness.
What makes you cry?
When I'm in an ultra race and I think about my daughter.
What race are you most proud of?
Brisbane Trail Ultra, my first miler.
Your go-to healthy snack?
Fresh Medjool dates stuffed with natural peanut butter.
What do you struggle with?
My finances.
Childhood idol?
That was a hard one. Vanessa May, the violinist. Again, great female doing awesome things. I played violin when I was young, but also my mum, I think.
Describe your perfect day.
Of course, it would have to be an early morning run on the trails, and then connecting with my community to take them for a run as well is always amazing. Spending time with my partner Toby, maybe going to Dickie's for lunch, which is an amazing vegan cafe that we go to a lot. Just being out in nature, or being up somewhere in Binnaburra, and then spending time with my daughter.
If a genie popped out of a bottle, what would you wish for?
I think an end to poverty, homelessness.
Advice to anyone thinking about becoming an ultra runner?
Take baby steps and enlist the right help, and like professional help. So make sure it's with someone's experience and not just an influencer, because there's a lot of that at the moment. And also do it for you. Don't do it for anyone else. So baby steps. Rome wasn't built in a day, so baby steps.
Great advice. Now, final question, Katie, question 26. Finish this sentence. I believe
that if you are living your true life purpose, that the universe will move mountains to make it happen.
Awesome finish. Thank you so much for your time. I know how busy you are, and you've been up since 3:20 a.m. this morning. Awesome effort. Thank you so much for your insights. It's been fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, if you've enjoyed this episode, we have a small favour to ask. Please take a moment to subscribe, review, and share this podcast with someone you think will appreciate it. Your support helps us reach more listeners, and we can continue delivering content that educates, inspires, and empowers you. Don't forget to follow us on social media to stay in the loop with all our latest news. 2024 is going to be a huge year, and we'll continue running our weekly Friday morning kayaking sessions on the beautiful Brisbane River, along with plenty more thrilling adventures, exciting activities and challenges are planned. We'd love for you to join us and be part of our growing community. Remember, success is all about consistency, and by investing 26 minutes exercising both your mind and your body every day, you too can become the strongest, fittest and healthiest version of you. So stay tuned and stay active.